Welcome, everyone. We are going to begin the webinar on the increasing influence of OEMs on collision repair. I'm Melissa Jolls with RDA Impact. Jeff Wildman, Manager OEM and Industry Relations for BASF Automotive, is your presenter today. The presentation will take approximately 30 to 40 minutes. We are recording it and we'll post it on our website under training videos. If you have questions, you can type them in the chat box at the bottom right of your screen, and Jeff will answer those at the end of the presentation. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. As Melissa said, my name is Jeff Wildman, and I manage OEM and Industry Relations at BASF. I've been with BASF for 27 years now in a number of roles, working with as a sales rep, as a business development manager, and a regional sales manager, also working with our distributor partners and managing the distribution programs, as well as working with some of the company-owned distribution locations that BASF had at one time. And in my current role, I am the global key account manager for Ford, GM, Chrysler, and Tesla on the collision side of the business. And I also work with all of the other OEMs that sell vehicles in North America and represent BASF with them for North America. So that's kind of a quick background on me. And today what we're going to talk about is really what's happening in the industry. And we'll go through a brief introduction, talk about some of the changes that are happening, why the OEM influence is increasing, what's driving that, how technology is a piece of that, talk about safe repairs and what's involved in a safe repair and why it's so important today. And then we'll get into some things to talk about what you should be doing and maybe some opportunities for where you can get some of that support. And then we will, I'll take some questions if you have questions once we get done with this. So this is going to be a high-level overview. It's really to get that conversation started so you can start asking some of those questions. You can start asking some of your suppliers and your distributors that you work with how they can help you with this. So as we look at the industry, and you've all heard a lot about this, about consolidation and about how the shop size is growing and there's fewer shops today, and how the OEM networks are growing and what's going on with DRPs and photo estimating. And then you hear about technology and all these things that are shaping where the industry's going. You know, they say we'll be at around 30,000 shops within the next few years. You know, we're still very fragmented, and you've got 4 huge consolidators out there. But you've heard about this, and these trends seem to be going on, and we keep talking about them. But what are these dynamics? How are these things shaping where we're headed, and what else is impacting us? And really, a big piece of it's technology. And when you start looking at technology, we start looking at, in a lot of cases, they talk about the lines of code, because everything is software driven today. So if you look at this F-22 Raptor, there's 1.7 million lines of code in that vehicle. You start to look at where the technology is going. You look at a 787 Dreamliner, it's got 14 times or 7 times more code in it at 14 million lines of code. But what really hit me hard and really got me thinking was when you look at the new Ford F-150, it's got over 140 million lines of code in it. And think about that. That vehicle that you're driving today has more software code in it than a fighter jet or a passenger jet. And why is that? What's driving that? And really what's driving it is you. It's consumers. Consumers are driving this technology because they want more safety features. They want more convenience features. They want more entertainment features. So you start looking at complexity in a vehicle, and you look at all the systems, and they call it ADAS, or Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. And what are those? They're made up of cameras and radars and ultrasonic radars and sensors, but it's backup cameras, it's your park assist, it's all the voice controls, adaptive cruise, adaptive headlights, lane departure warnings. All of these things are part of that ADAS system. But what really starts you thinking is these are all safety systems. And what do those mean for us in the collision business? Right now, it sounds like the cars are going to be more expensive to fix because there's more parts to them. But where it really hits is when you look at these safety systems, you take 3 of them: the blind spot monitoring, forward collision warning, crash avoidance, and lane departure warning. Those 3 alone could reduce accidents by 25%. And that could mean 10,000 fewer fatalities. Now, you hear that and you think, wow, I don't see that happening today, 25% reduction in crashes. And you won't, because those are on the newer vehicles. And right now, it's probably 5 to 10% of the vehicles on the road have those 3 technologies on board. And there's still a lot of cars out there without those that are causing a lot of accidents. But at 15 to 17 million new cars a year, how many years is it going to take before most vehicles have these 3 technologies? And again, it's consumers that are driving this, because 90% of fatalities are caused by human error. So we start to look at how these could save lives. And I don't know any of us that would travel via train or passenger jet if we knew that the same amount of fatalities were happening on those modes of transportation as what happens in your vehicles today. So that's what's really driving this, and why we're looking to change, and why consumers are asking for these safety features. But it doesn't just stop there. It's not just driven by electronics and this type of technology. It's also driven by the way the vehicles are built, the substrates that are used. And there's a lot of things that are driving that. The CAFE standards are driving the miles per gallon up, so we need lighter vehicles. But these lighter vehicles, we're using all types of advanced lightweight materials, such as aluminums, high-strength steels, carbon fibers, magnesium, and other advanced components to lighten these vehicles up. And it doesn't happen just at a model year change. They're making changes all the time. And the image I've got up here is the Honda CR-V. And you can see going from 2014 to 2015, how the substrate has changed on that vehicle. It changes the way you repair that vehicle. It changes the way you're going to put it back together. There's multiple types of welding today. There's multiple riveting methods. There's multiple types of rivets to use. There's multiple types of adhesives that are required. Too much heat on high-strength steel weakens it. So you need to really understand what you're working on and what that vehicle looks like today. Because even though you may have fixed one yesterday, you need to look at what you're fixing today and what are the differences in those. Because cosmetically, from the outside, they look identical. And me being from a paint company, again, I'm going to talk about the impact of coatings too. And you may look at this and say, well, what does a coating have to do with any of this? Well, start to look at some of the colors you've started to see. You've all seen the 3-stage. The quad coats have come out now. We've got the liquid metals. You've translucent finishes where you can see right through these finishes. You've got matte finishes. And to get these finishes to look right takes an understanding of how they're applied. And some of that goes to how does the metallic lay down, or what's underneath that color when you put it on, so that you get the right translucence coming through to match what was done at the factory. And the reason that the OEMs are doing this is color sells cars. I mean, I'm sure some of you have seen the 3T5 that's on this Lexus, this red, or potentially some of the new Mazda colors, the machine gray, that soul red metallic, or maybe you've heard about Toyota structural blue. And this is a pigment that Toyota's come up with that's a proprietary Toyota pigment. And there is a process to applying these colors so that they look right. And that all sounds great, but what does color really have to do with all the technology here? When you start looking at some of these safety systems and the sensors, you know the sensors are below the bumper. They're behind the bumper. Some of them, you can see the little round dots, but not all. Too much paint over a sensor causes that sensor not to operate properly. Too much metallic over it or body filler over the sensor. You need to understand what's under that car, under that bumper, where those sensors are and what you're putting over them, and understand what you're using. All of these systems work together. And the OEMs are starting to respond. And we're seeing the OEMs get more and more involved in what's happening in collision. Ford did a survey to find out where do consumers want to take their vehicle. And one of the things that came back was 52% said they wanted to go to a shop that was certified by the vehicle manufacturer. You've got companies like Honda talking about not all parts are equal. Make sure that you have quality parts. Make sure that those parts work properly with your vehicle. Again, we're talking about safety. We want your vehicle repaired safely. So does this part work the same as the other part from a safety perspective? Nissan has put a lot of advertising out and done a lot of research talking about non-original parts versus OEM parts. Which ones bring your vehicle back to safe pre-accident condition? They're all talking about this, and why? Because safety is a key concern. That's what's driving the technology in vehicles, and the OEMs see that, and they want to make sure that these vehicles get back to where they are. But it really comes down to one other thing too, and you all know what this is. It comes down to the bottom line. So one of the things that we see is OEMs trying to get customers for life. They know that if you're in an accident and you're not happy with the way the process went for repairing your car, you're going to trade that car within 12 months, 60% of the time. Of those 60% that trade cars, 63% will trade brands. That's worth billions of dollars to the OEMs. If they can keep their customers happy, get a good repair, that the customer's happy with the repair process, they may still trade cars, but they'll buy another one from the same company. And they see the same thing when there's a total loss. 40% of the time, they're going to switch brands. That's what's gotten the attention of the OEMs. That's why the OEMs have gotten involved in the collision side of the business. They want cars back on the road. They want customers that are happy, so they buy more cars from them. So what we're seeing is the OEMs are looking at consumers and brand loyalty. How do we drive that? And they're looking at things, something they call accident damage management. And where they've started at is with safety. We talked a little bit about that. You've heard about networks that they're building and the network standards that are going into place. It's about that customer experience. How is the customer treated? What's the customer's feeling? How are they going through that experience and so forth when they're getting their car repaired? Is it positive or is it totally negative? Or is it somewhere in between? And then they want to protect their brands. Because again, it's all about that brand loyalty. So they're looking at this really in three pillars. They're talking about insurance relationships, they're talking about the claims management process, and they also have to support their dealer network out there, because that's how they sell the cars, is through those dealer networks. So as we look at the insurance relationship, the things that the OEMs are looking for, the same thing the insurance companies are looking for to some extent. Because insurance companies and DRPs are not going away. They're changing, but they're not going away. Insurance companies are still paying the bill. And insurers understand that they need to manage their costs because all of this technology, and as I mentioned, the three technologies could reduce accidents by 25%. So they know the number of accidents are going to go down, but they also know that severity is going to increase because it's much more expensive to replace a bumper when you're replacing 2 or 3 sensors with it, maybe a backup camera, and other technology that may be included with that. So these parts become more expensive. It's more complex. It takes you more time in the shop to repair these vehicles. So where do we go? How do the OEMs and the insurance companies work together to improve this process? And that's where they're looking at lean processes. How do we improve efficiency? How do we get cars through the shop quicker? But at the same time, they've got to be repaired properly. Because the insurance companies looking at length of rental. How much are they paying for rentals? And if I can show you that I can do it in a quicker time and reduce that length of rental, the insurance company is going to be happy. Most vehicle owners, if you tell them that their car is going to take 2 weeks instead of 3 weeks, they're going to be happy too if the car is repaired properly, if you do what you say you're going to do. And I mean, just to give you an example here, the average length of rental today is about 11.5 days. And if you assume about $30 per day for that rental car, a company like State Farm, who's the biggest insurer out there in the US, if they could reduce that length of rental by 1 day, that's a $45 million savings to them. That's why the OEMs are trying to work with the insurance companies and tell them, we've got some relationships here and we've got some things in place to support you, which leads us right into the claims management piece, because the other side of it is insurance companies need to decrease their administrative cost. A lot of the costs of that repair are outside the actual repair. So we look at claims management and we start to talk about telematics. All new vehicles pretty much have telematics. Every OEM is working on a telematics program. That leads right into the whole first notice of loss. When you have that accident, who gets that first notice and how is that car going to, where's that vehicle going to go from there? The OEMs are looking for opportunities to manage that first notice of loss. I mean, think about it. The one everybody's familiar with is OnStar. How many GM vehicles are there out on the road today that have OnStar? How many sensors are there in a vehicle today that can tell if that vehicle's been in an accident? Communicate back through the telematics system and start the whole process of that repair. The OEMs are looking at this today. There will be, and it's happening today in certain countries and in certain areas in the US even, where they're actually piloting this first notice of loss. One of the biggest holdups to that program today is having a shop network where I can send the vehicle. Where's the network that knows how to repair this vehicle that I can direct this vehicle to and ensure that they will get a proper repair, they'll have a great customer experience, and everybody walks away happy, and I'm protecting my brand loyalty. That's why when they look at claims management, again, efficiency is important, customer service is important. But we've also got to keep the dealer in mind here, because the dealer sells the car. So a lot of the programs that are out there from the OEMs today require a dealer sponsorship. They want that relationship between the collision center and the dealer, so that the dealer can be that one point of contact and say, our collision partner is here, and this is where we recommend that you take your vehicle. And of course, as the collision partner, you're going to buy your OEM parts from that dealer. So there's something in it for the dealer too. It ties the whole thing together for the customer, keeping that customer loyalty, keeping that customer tied to the dealer, and seeing the dealer as that one stop that helps them take care of not only routine service and where they can go to purchase a new vehicle, but also when they do have that collision, the dealer can support them there too. Because the OEMs want to own that customer for life. And I've got a quick video here I'm going to show you, and we'll talk briefly about it afterwards, but this is happening today.
Mr. Williams, this is Vehicle Services. We've been notified of a collision event. Are you okay?
I'm fine. Just a little fender bender.
Should we send EMS and police to the scene?
No EMS, but police would be great.
Well, we've notified the police of the incident and your location, and they're on the way. We've also received a diagnostic report from your vehicle. It appears your car will not be drivable from the scene. Would you like for us to make arrangements for pickup?
Yes, that would be great.
All right, we're sending to your phone our 3 certified repair centers closest to you. Do you have it?
Yes, I just got it.
If you will, just choose one, and we'll have the vehicle delivered there for damage assessment.
Great. I guess all that's left for me is to call my insurance company.
No, sir, Ms. Williams. I've got your insurance information on file, and I've already notified them of your loss and where we'll be taking the vehicle. I've got your claim information, and I'm sending it to your phone now. They'll be in touch with you soon regarding your claim. I've also let the repair center know that the car's on its way, along with a copy of the vehicle self-assessment of damage. This has generated an initial parts order, and they're en route to the facility as well. In addition, I'm taking care of your rental costs, waiting for you at the shop.
Thank you. It's so great to have your help. I don't know how I would have made those decisions.
You're welcome, Mr. Williams. That's why I'm here. Would you like me to stay on the phone until the police arrive? Should I notify anybody that you might be waiting for an appointment?
No, thanks. I'm fine. And you could call my wife and save me from breaking the bad news about her car.
So that video you just saw is actually happening today. Today, it's really only working with some of the luxury cars that are on the road. And the big reason for that is there are fewer of those vehicles on the road, so they need a smaller network to support. But they're still struggling to have a network large enough. In Europe, this is running today. In Canada, it's been running for a couple of years. There's pilots going on in the US right now. And it's insurers and OEMs working together so that when these vehicles are sent to a shop, the insurance companies aren't going and saying, we want to pull that car out of there. They're talking about, we have a relationship with this OEM. This is where we want it fixed because it's going to be fixed properly. But one of the things you saw there was also the administrative costs that we talked about. A lot of that was just taken care of, tied to the whole telematics piece. You've also got a customer now that is has just been in an accident, so they're not happy, but you've made their life easier. You've made their life simple. This is the direction we're headed. So where do you go now? How do you ensure that you're repairing these vehicles properly? And the first thing you need to understand is, where do you get that OEM repair information? And hopefully everyone on this call today is following the OEM repair procedures on every vehicle they repair. And those repair procedures are available from a number of different places. You can get them straight from the OEM. You can also get them from some third-party companies such as AllData. CCC1 has their repair methods within their system. Mitchell has the Tech Advisor in their estimating system, and then AutoExplore has Tech Focus. So you could be using one of those. If you're looking for OEM information, the OEMs have gotten together. They've got a website called OEM One Stop. Several OEMs, as you can see on this diagram here, you click on the logo and you get to directly to their information, position statements, repair procedures, anything you need to know about that OEM. You can also go through ICAR from their repairability and technical support. They have links to the OEMs. One of the things that you need to realize is all of these are subscription-based. This information is not just free to go grab. You're going to need a subscription. And the subscriptions, you can get them on a daily basis, a monthly basis, or an annual basis. The other thing you should be aware of, though, is how often are these sites updated? The OEM information is updated every day. They create something, they put it on their site, and it's up to date. These third-party sites, what you're looking at is a snapshot in time. They get an update on a quarterly basis or biannual basis or whatever they've worked out with the OEMs. And what you'll find there is a snapshot in time. So some of these repair procedures may change 2 or 3 times a year because the OEMs are going through the same thing that you are. Things are changing. We're using new substrates. We've got new electronics. There's all this new technology. And the collision side of it, the service engineers that are developing the repair procedures, this is new to them too. They're looking for the right tools to repair the vehicles the right way. So they may find that they've put out a repair procedure and then find a better way. They may have gotten calls, or they may have gotten information back from the field from you or your technicians that said, hey, we repaired it the way you said, and here's a problem we have. Or have you thought about doing it this way? And the OEMs listen to that. I talk to the service engineers on a regular basis, and they definitely listen to what you've got to say. But the key here is, are you getting the proper repair information? And do you know where to get it? Do you know how to read it? Do you know how to find it? And if not, you need to do that, because these vehicles are changing, and they're changing on a daily basis. And the technology is continuing to move forward at an ever-increasing pace. So once you understand where to get the information, now how do you use it? And again, there's a lot of training out there. Several OEMs have OEM-specific training for different vehicles. And you really need to go to their training to understand how to do it. Some OEMs have worked with ICAR. But then again, there's also other training out there, because training isn't just for technicians. It's for everybody in your business. How do you treat that customer? Are your estimators writing up the estimate? How are they explaining it to the customer? How are you defining how long it's going to take for the vehicle? Are you setting the right expectations for the vehicle owner? You've also got programs out there, certification in color, that meet OEM and ICAR requirements. BASF also has our Vision Plus courses, which are business courses that meet ICAR requirements and requirements for certain OEMs. We also have performance groups. These are all tools out there that are available to you to help you improve your business and train your people and your technicians. Because when you look at training, we've done some work with ICAR, and they came back and they looked at shops out there. 58% of the shops are likely not doing any training at all. Let me repeat that. That's 58% are likely not doing any training at all. And we've all heard about gold class and what that means and so forth. But when you look at the number of gold class shops, it's roughly 20% of the shops out there. And there's a lot of people doing ICAR training. And as I mentioned a minute ago, there's ICAR training and there's other training out there. But what type of training are you doing? And what's required? When you start looking at requirements, OEMs that you see up here in the upper right corner, Chrysler, Ford, Infiniti, Nissan, Kia, Audi, all require ICAR Gold Class. Allstate, Nationwide, USAA, they require Gold Class. If you're in the Assured Performance Network, they require Gold Class. For the Honda Pro First and Acura program, and for the GM CT6 network, you have to be Gold Class to qualify to get into those programs. And then you see a whole list of insurance companies that encourage people to be Gold Class trained. Again, the key here is, are you training? Are you trying to keep up with what's going on out there? Are you trying to keep up with how things are changing? And then you look at welding. Welding has changed immensely. As we talked about different substrates, there's aluminum welding, there's steel welding, there's different types of welding that go on. And you can see the list here of the different OEMs and insurance companies that require ICAR welding to be on their programs. It's important that we understand training is important, and what's your shop strategy there? What's your training strategy? Do you have one at your shop? Look at the vehicles you're repairing. Look at the companies that you work with. Make sure that you've got a training strategy out there and understand what your plan is to maintain that and stay on top of it. Again, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here, but we talk about too much paint. Too much paint on radar sensors for Mercedes-Benz or Parktronic and Park Assist and Blind Spot will give false detections. If you look at a 2013 Regal, excessive paint thickness on the sensors will give you a bad reading. The 2012 Chevy Equinox, you have to remove the sensor brackets before you paint to make sure you don't get any bridging. There's a lane change module. It has to be recalibrated every time the bumper cover is removed on the 2010 Audi Q7. Those are a couple of things that, again, these are just bumper repairs we're talking about here. But the real key to this is every one of those I just mentioned, every one of those vehicles is over 5 years old. It's not just the brand new cars we're talking about here. These sensors have been out there, and are you doing things the right way? Are you using your ground coats to make sure that you get fewer coats of paint on there so you don't have too much paint over a sensor? Are you checking where the sensors are to make sure they haven't been previously painted? Do you know what the OEM repair procedure is on a bumper that has sensors underneath it? Can it be repainted? How many times can it be repainted? Every OEM out there has a statement on that or a repair procedure about their bumpers. I know some OEMs that say if there are sensors under the bumper, it cannot be repainted, it's got to be replaced. I know others that say it can have 2 paint jobs on it, one from the factory and once repaired. I know another OEM that says if it's a base clear, you can repaint it. If it's a 3-stage, you can't. Each OEM is a little bit different, and they have their reasons for that, but it comes down to how those sensors work. And when you're doing that, are you using an OEM approved paint? And again, we've talked about it for years because we've got more OEM approvals than anyone else out there. But what does that really mean to you? We work with these OEMs to understand what's the thickness of the paint we're putting on. What's the impact going to be on those sensors? We also know that too much metallic in a paint can also impact the sensor. So there's a lot of technology in the coatings that you're applying also. And there's a reason that we talk about use the ground coat, use base boosters, 2 coats of clear, 1 coat of this primer, or how thick things need to be. It's not just about grab any paint and put it on, because it can impact how those sensors work and how they react. And when you talk about safety, and that's really what these all are, they're safety features, do you really know what equipment and options are on these vehicles you're repairing? Because it's not just a simple repair anymore. When you start working on a vehicle, you should understand what safety and convenience features are on that vehicle. Is it a hybrid? Is it an EV? What else could it have? I mean, if you think about a simple repair on a door, we're going to detrim a door and do a blend a spot on the door. So if I've taken the door handle off and the mirror, I put those back on and I'm ready to go. Well, not necessarily anymore, because some of these mirrors have cameras for the blind spot monitoring. Most door handles today have the keyless entry on them. Do those work? What do they need to be recalibrated? Do they require pre and post scan? I mean, that's a simple door. I mean, bumpers are something that we've also thought of it for years. It's a simple bumper repair. But you start looking at bumper repairs, and you've got backup cameras, you've got foot activated hatches, you've got adaptive cruise control, you've got adaptive headlights. The new Buick Regal has an active hood, and it's got a sensor in the front bumper for pedestrian safety. What's involved in repairing that bumper now? I know that certain vehicles, if you remove the front bumper, based on where that adaptive cruise module is, that adaptive cruise may need to be recalibrated. Recalibrating that may include a 4-wheel alignment, all to replace a bumper. What are the advanced materials you're working on? Are you working on high strength steel, mild steel, boron steel, aluminum, magnesium? What are these materials you're working around? What's the proper way to put those back together? You really need to understand what those features are on the vehicles you're working on today, because there are no simple repairs. And that's where those OEM repair procedures are extremely important. So what are some of the things that you should be doing? And the first question that I'm going to ask you is, are you researching and following OEM repair procedures on every repair? If you're not, that's something you should go back to your shop today and talk about. You should talk about, how do you and your staff stay up to speed on current models? How do your estimators stay up to speed on what's going on? How do they write a good estimate? I mean, we just talked about some of the things that are involved in repairing a bumper today, or blending in a door. Do your estimators understand that? Are they writing the estimate to include everything? Are they setting the expectation with the customer properly? So the customer understands you've got a lot of safety features on your vehicle, and we want to make sure that those all operate properly when you're done, when we're done repairing this. So it's not a 1-day repair, it's a 5-day repair. Maybe we need to send something back to the dealer for a recalibration. How many days does that add to a repair? We want to make sure that these customers have the right expectation set and understand what's involved. We want you to be seen as the expert. I'm not just taking this to some body shop out here. I'm taking it to the experts that know what they're doing and understand how to repair my vehicle. You know, are you repair planning? Are you repair planning every vehicle so that you make sure you have the parts, you understand what really needs to be done, and tie that back to the repair procedures? You know, and then with all the diagnostics, are you getting an authorization to perform diagnostics and look at the data that's on that vehicle? There's a lot of data in vehicles today. And one of the things we know is about 80% of the shops out there are not pulling a repair procedure every time. And there's 1,000,001 reasons why not. But you need to do that. That's something that's really important to help you manage those customer expectations. So as you look at your businesses and you look at how you're prepared for the future, are you doing the things you need to do? You know, are you reinvesting? Are you looking at your analytics? Are you looking at your numbers? You know, how are you getting cars to the door? What's your strategy? And what's your strategy for OEM repair procedures? How do you hit those standards? Again, it goes back to the technology. Do you have the equipment you need? Do you have the training you need? Do you have the technicians? What are the relationships you have, either with OEMs or DRPs or dealerships? How are you ensuring that you're going to have cars coming to the door? There's a lot of places to go for this sort of assistance, but you need to start thinking about these things to prepare for the future. Your business strategy, how you're going to have business solutions, because business is changing. There are going to be fewer repairs. There's going to be more severity, more technology involved, and everybody wants this to be efficient. Nobody wants to waste money, and you want a return on your investment too. We're all in this for one reason, to make money here. So you don't want to run a business as charity. And customer focus, because that's what's going to keep those customers coming back and keep your partners sending customers to you, is that customer focus. So are you prepared and really ready to do the things you need to do? And really to kind of wrap things up here, I mean, really, when you talk about OEMs, insurers, and customers, what they really expect is collision centers with the technology, training, and processes to repeatedly return a vehicle to that pre-accident condition. And what we mean by pre-accident condition is not just that it looks pretty. It's got to react the same as it did before the accident and match those crash test results. It's got to have that crash worthiness. So I want to be able to go out and walk up to my car and the keyless door entry works. I want to be able to rely on blind spot monitoring. So I look in the mirror and I don't see the little light, I know I can move into that other lane. It's got to work the way it did before. And the other side of it is, if I do get in another accident, I want to be protected. And you have to do all of this while providing that customer with a positive experience. We want the customer to walk out of your shop happy. And this was a great repair. I've got a great car. It's in the same condition as before. It works just like it did before. This is a great vehicle, and if I go to buy another one, I'll buy another vehicle, the same one I've got now. That's really where this is all going. So I've got one more video for you here. And this, again, it ties everything back together. We're going to talk about a certified repair versus a non-certified repair, or following repair procedures and not. So what we're going to see here is an accident, and then the repair procedure following OEM repair procedures, and one that doesn't follow it, does it the way we've always done it. So you can see here we've got an aluminum vehicle that we're repairing by replacing a part. And again, the OEM repair procedure calls for adhesives, not welding here. Versus straightening and Bondo. And from appearances, both repairs look great. They both look like they did before the accident. But here's where the real test comes in, and this was the last piece we were talking about. How does it react? Does it react like it did before? And as you can see, the one that followed the OEM repair procedure was a safe repair. The other one wasn't. So with that, I'll open it up if anybody has questions.
We actually do have a question here, Jeff.
Okay.
Do you believe there is a time in the future that OEMs will self-insure?
That's a really good question. And I've talked to several OEMs about that, and potentially yes. Right now, they are all looking at it as we would rather partner with an insurance company versus insure ourselves. But every one of them that I've talked to about it has also said the option is on the table. But right now, they're staying away from it.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? You can type them in the chat box at the bottom right of your screen, and Jeff would be happy to answer those. I also want to mention I will follow up with everybody on the call, and I will send Jeff's contact information. So if you have questions later, you can reach out to him directly. Anybody else? Okay, I don't see any. It's going to wrap it up for us. I really appreciate everybody taking time out to attend the webinar today. Thank you, Jeff. And we'll be in touch with upcoming training opportunities. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.